Stop it, guys. Seriously. That's enough. Ethan's voice sliced through the noise that filled the university courtyard. The laughter of his friends froze mid-air. He had never raised his voice before, but watching the new girl freeze under their taunts was somehow unbearable. Amara stood by the fountain, gripping her worn bag. The morning sun turned her skin to polished bronze, her tight curls shimmering in the light, eyes a clear, stormy grey that seemed lost and proud at the same time. They said she came here on charity, one boy muttered. Ethan shot him a look. I'd call it courage. Try it sometime. Amara turned before he could say more. The crowd parted in embarrassed silence as she walked away, shoulders straight, every step a small rebellion. Later that day, the same boy who had defended her sat outside the lecture hall, absently spinning a rugby ball between his hands. Ethan Wallace, final year business major, heir to Wallace Holdings, rich enough to never care about anyone or anything. But something about the girl's quiet dignity had clung to him. Inside, Amara took an empty seat. Whispers fluttered again. She stared ahead. Then a sheet of paper slid onto her desk. Asterisk, ignore them. Asterisk, the handwriting said. She turned. Ethan was watching her from 3 rows back, his smile quick and boyish. For the first time all day, her chest loosened. By late afternoon, clouds rolled over the campus. Ethan walked toward the parking lot, helmet in hand. He spotted her again under the library steps, waiting out the drizzle. Need a ride? She shook her head, voice even. You think I can't walk in the rain? He grinned. Just thought it'd be faster. I've been running against storms my whole life, she said quietly, and turned back toward the road. Ethan watched her go, rain streaking across his jacket. He didn't realize that in that small exchange, something permanent had shifted. A week later, the cafeteria buzzed with noise when Amar entered for lunch. The laughs began almost instantly, mock applause, whispers that carried. Before she could leave, Ethan stepped in front of her. She's with me, he said simply. The room went silent. It didn't sound like pride. It sounded like protection. Outside, under the cherry trees whose petals scattered across wet ground, Amara finally spoke. Why did you do that? He shrugged. Because bullies bore me. You'll lose, friends. Then I need better ones. She almost smiled before turning away. His motorcycle roared to life behind her, and in the mirror of a rain-puddled street, he watched her reflection linger for a moment, framed by the falling blossoms. That night, Amara wrote a letter to her brothers back home. Asterisk, people stare, but I'm learning to look past them. Maybe here I'll find something more than just a degree. Asterisk, across town, Ethan stared at the city skyline from his balcony, wondering why a girl who didn't flinch from storms suddenly made his world feel smaller and somehow infinitely brighter. Why didn't you take the seat? Ethan asked when the lecture ended. Students poured out, chattering, but Amara kept walking, the strap of her bag digging into her shoulder. Because no one wanted me there, she said simply. He fell in stride beside her. Then let me want you there. Her lips curved for half a heartbeat, then flattened again. You have no idea how strange that sounds coming from you. And she walked faster, disappearing into the crowd that still bent heads to whisper. Ethan stood at the corner for a long time, watching the umbrella of her dark curls vanish down the lane. That evening he found her again by coincidence or by plan. He wasn't sure at the Maple Diner. She was behind the counter, hair pulled back, sleeves rolled, cheeks damp with sweat. She carried a tray as if it were a shield. Coffee, table 6. The manager barked. Ethan heard a man's voice hiss as she approached. I asked for someone else. She froze. The tray trembled. The manager's apology was a hiss of fear. Sorry, sir. Then, to her, go wipe the counter. Ethan reached the table before she could leave. You'll take mine, he said to the man in a tone that brooked no argument. He paid twice, left the cups untouched, and walked out with anger burning in his chest. The next morning, Amara found a strange email from the university's IT partner offering her an interview. By nightfall, she had a job data entry, flexible hours, decent pay. In bed, she said softly to the ceiling, maybe prayers do work, even for people like me. Weeks bled together. She worked. She studied. The world still stared, but less loudly. Sometimes she crossed paths with Ethan by accident. Sometimes not. Always the same brief nod, never more. But one evening, as she closed her laptop in the computer lab, he leaned on the doorway. You're good at this, he said. Who taught you? Necessity, she answered. It's the best teacher. He smiled. Mine's guilt. For what? For not stopping them sooner. For letting this place think it was okay. She looked at him then, and something unspoken softened between them, before she shook her head. You can't fix the world by apologizing for everyone in it. 2 months later, the university festival lit the campus. Strings of lights hung from trees, glowing through falling petals. Amara stood near the stage, clutching a bundle of flyers she had designed for her department. Ethan's group was running the sports booth nearby. She could hear their laughter. Then one of the girls, Clara, with the flawless smile, walked past her and murmured, cute flyers. For someone who shouldn't even be here. Laughter again, rehearsed, cruel. She stayed still until a familiar scent brushed by cologne, rain, and mint. Ethan stepped between them. You talk too much, Clara. She didn't ask you to defend her, Clara said coolly. No, he replied, but that's what friends do. He turned, met Amara's eyes, and handed her one of his flyers. Trade? Her fingers brushed his, and this time she didn't look away. Later that night, she sat alone at the dorm window. Outside, lamps flickered in the wind. She whispered, why does kindness feel more dangerous than hate? Then she stared at her phone screen, where a new message blinked from an unknown number. If you ever need a ride home, it's safer on 2 wheels than walking alone. She smiled just once and closed her eyes, hearing a motorcycle somewhere in the dark hum like a heartbeat waiting to be trusted. Why do you always show up when I'm losing my temper? Amara's voice shook more from exhaustion than anger. She had spilled coffee on her notes, and the cheap pen she used had left black streaks on her fingers. Ethan leaned against the table beside her. Because you look like you need someone to talk to right before you break things. She gave a small laugh in spite of herself. I do not break things. I break expectations. He looked at her then, really looked at the way her lashes caught light, at the steady fire behind those grey eyes. That must be hard work. It is honesty, she replied, stacking her papers. People like to pretend they do not see colour. I like to remind them they do. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Outside the library window, the rain was falling again, faint and endless like the sound of the sea. Amara had been at the new IT job for 3 weeks when the offer came to host an open house presentation. Everyone was excited, except her. Her accent, her hair, her very presence made the others uneasy. Still, she stood before the projector and spoke clearly about code and data until the murmurs quieted. When the applause came, slow but real, Ethan was at the back smiling like he had known she could do it all along. Later that day in the courtyard, he handed her a bouquet. You earned these. She hesitated before taking it. You give flowers to everyone you defend. Only the ones who scare me, he said. Her laugh broke through the thin air, and for a second the entire campus felt lighter. But peace never lasted long. Clara's jealousy grew sharper every time she saw them talk. She pretended friendship, brought Amara into her group, whispered secrets, invited her to birthdays. Then, when the crowd was right, she made small jokes that weren't jokes at all. Oh, Amara, you must use so much conditioner for all that hair. Amara, you glow in the dark. How lucky for evening classes. The laughter left bruises Amara could not show. That night she sat with Maya on the dorm steps. It is strange, she said quietly. I imagined Europe would feel bigger. Here I feel smaller every day. Maya pressed a hand on hers. Then let them shrink, not you. The following weekend brought the bookstore encounter. Amara stood at the counter choosing a bouquet for Maya's birthday when another voice ordered the same one. Excuse me, I picked that first, she said without turning. And I paid for it first, Ethan's amused tone answered. She faced him, unimpressed. You would pay for oxygen if you thought it made you look generous, only if someone as stubborn as you needed it, he said. The shopkeeper stared between them while they argued softly about flowers until finally Ethan surrendered. Fine, take it. But let me write the card, she frowned. To whom? To your friend Maya, he said. From both of us. When he left, she found herself smiling, shaking her head at the absurd warmth spreading inside her chest. That evening rain returned again, washing the streets silver. She placed the bouquet on her desk and whispered, He is impossible. But her reflection in the glass was smiling. Across town, Ethan sat with his friends in a noisy cafe. Someone mentioned Amara's name in a joke. He set down his cup and said quietly, She is twice the courage you will ever have. No one spoke after that. Outside, the rain kept falling, and in that sound, something fragile began turning into love. The street was quiet when Ethan found her sitting on the curb outside the dorm. The streetlight poured gold over her hair, turning each curl into its own small flame. Her eyes were red, fixed on the pavement. He stopped in front of her, not speaking until she looked up. What happened? He asked softly. Nothing new, she said. I studied, I worked, and somewhere between the two somebody reminded me, I do not belong. Ethan sat beside her. Then they are blind. Amara shook her head. No, they see too much. That is the problem. He looked down at his hands. You keep fighting alone. Let someone stand with you for once. I do not need saving. Ethan. He turned to her. I never said you did. But sometimes even the strongest person needs to rest. Her throat tightened. No one had ever said that to her before. Days passed. They began meeting without planning to. Sometimes at the computer lab, sometimes outside the cafe, sometimes just passing each other near the fountain that had once been her nightmare. She started to laugh around him. Small laughs that surprised even her. Clara watched from a distance, her perfect smile sharpening into envy. She tried soft sabotage first, sharing subtle rumors, hinting that Amara was using Ethan for a better life. When Ethan ignored them, Clara grew bolder. She invited Amara to her birthday party, pretending friendship, pretending to start over. Maya tried to warn her. Be careful. Some people's kindness is just a new way to hurt you. Amara exhaled. Maybe I am tired of expecting cruelty. That night she arrived at Clara's house with a gift and a tremor of hope. The music was loud, the lights too bright. At first everyone was polite. Then, as the evening grew late and drinks blurred manners, the old mockery returned. Jokes about her skin, her accent, where she came from. She tried to leave, but Clara blocked the door, smiling. "Come on, Amara, it is just fun." "It is humiliation," Amara said quietly and walked out into the cold. She was still walking through the empty streets when a car slowed beside her. The smile of the driver froze her. She turned and ran, but another figure stepped from the alley. Panic choked her. The next thing she remembered was headlights, hands pulling, a sharp smell of alcohol. Then Ethan's voice hoarse, desperate, calling her name. He had been trying her phone, tracking her signal. He reached her in seconds that felt like years, seeing the bruise on her arm, the fear in her eyes. "It's over," he whispered, wrapping his jacket around her shoulders. She trembled, gripping the sleeves as if they were a lifeline. At the hospital, she kept repeating, "Please do not tell anyone. I will tell the police," he said firmly. She closed her eyes. "Do what you must, just do not let them pity me." He nodded, understanding more than he could say. The next morning he went to the police station, his hands shaking with rage. News spread quickly through the campus. What had been done? Who had done it? Within hours, arrests were made. Clara went silent, guilt painted across her face. When Ethan confronted her, she could not meet his eyes. "You said I was blind," he told her. "You were right. I was blind to who you truly were." Later, he stood outside Amara's door with flowers and fruit, unsure if she would even see him. She opened it slowly, pale, eyes rimmed with sleep. "You shouldn't have come," she murmured. "I had to." "Why?" "Because I needed to be sure you were still here." Her lips trembled. "You make it very hard to hate this place." He smiled faintly. "Then maybe one day you will call it home." She looked at the flowers at him, and for the first time let him inside. Outside, the sun lifted from the horizon, washing the street in light. Inside, two people sat quietly in that small room, the silence between them no longer empty but full of the kind of peace that comes after surviving a storm. He woke to the thin hum of machines and the smell of antiseptic. Light from half-closed blinds cut the room into bars of gold and shadow. When he lifted his hand, the 4-line tugged. He remembered why he was there. The doctor's voice from the previous night echoed again. Autoimmune failure. Limited time. O negative only. Ethan's first clear thought was not fear. It was Amara. He saw her face the day she first walked into the lecture hall. Waist-length curls, storm-grey eyes, the steady way she refused to shrink. Outside the ward, his parents whispered in brittle tones. Robert thought of expenses, Lydia of reputation, both refusing to meet their son's quiet despair. When the door opened, she was there. She had travelled overnight on the cheapest flight from Nairobi, wearing the same scarf she had worn the last time he saw her. "I told Maya I would only visit," she said, her voice more courage than calm. "I did not plan to stay." Ethan tried to smile. "You always say that before saving something." She took the chair beside his bed. "They say they need O negative. You can't," he began. "I already volunteered." She cut him softly. "You gave me courage. I will give you blood." Her words stunned the doctor behind them. Robert phrased weak protest. "She is a student, not family." The doctor looked at him. "Sir, blood type is closer than surname." The operation began at dawn. When she woke, her arm ached, but she asked only, "Is he breathing?" The nurse nodded. Ethan survived. Recovery was slower than anyone admitted. Amara stayed in a cheap apartment near the hospital, spending the day reading aloud to him old poetry, her own essays, anything that filled silence. Sometimes he pretended to sleep just to listen. "You should go back to class," he told her one afternoon. I will, she said, looking at the sunlight on the floor. When you can stand in it. His strength returned in weeks. He followed her through corridors with the shyness of a man reborn. Nurses whispered about the girl who had given blood. Orderlies treated her with reverence. Even Lydia Wallace avoided her once cold glance. Guilt tracing into gratitude. When the final review declared him safe for discharge, Amara arrived with a packed suitcase. "I booked a ticket," she said quietly. "My brothers start school next month. They still need me." He stared at the case, at her fingers resting on the handle. "Stay. We can make something here." "Your world is not ready for mine," she replied. "Maybe one day it will be." He reached into the drawer and pulled a small silver bracelet, hers lost months ago in the turmoil. "It kept me alive," he said. "Take it back." She slid it onto her wrist. It found its way once. It will again. The airport smelled of rain and farewells. He held her shoulders as the gates announced boarding. "Is this goodbye?" She smiled through wet lashes. "Call it a pause." Then she was gone beyond the glass, a figure swallowed by light. Months replaced seasons. Letters became the language they spoke, thin blue envelopes crossing oceans. His talked about markets, recovery. His mother's slow apology. Hers told of her brothers, of a little garden outside their house, of the scars that still itched in the cold. Then silence. 2 months without a word. Panic clawed at him until on a warm afternoon, the postman brought a final letter. "I am healthy. Do not worry. Love should move people forward, not keep them waiting. If you ever come here, you'll know the place by the sea." He did. A year later he was walking along that very shoreline, wind snapping the cuffs of his shirt. The Indian Ocean lay vast and calm. Near a wooden stall stood a woman selling handmade roses of paper and silk. When she turned, the sunlight hit silver on her wrist. "Do you still argue with shopkeepers over flowers?" she teased. He laughed, the sound breaking and whole at once. "You still win, don't you?" Behind them, his parents watched silently. Robert was the first to step forward, offering a small bouquet of real roses. "Thank you," he said simply. "You gave us back our son." Ethan took her hands. "I came to see the world we tried to change." Amara looked toward the sea where waves melted into gold. "No more trying," she whispered. "We already did." The tide rose around their feet. Somewhere a child laughed. Gulls wheeled overhead. For once the world seemed neither black nor white, just endless, bright and forgiving. Love never asks for names or color or the language of birth. It happens like breath, sudden, unstoppable. Who could have imagined that a girl who crossed oceans on a scholarship, the same girl they mocked and fired for the color of her skin, would become the heartbeat of a man born into light and comfort? What spell lived in her storm? Grey eyes that made a wealthy heir forget his world, or in those endless curls that shimmered like midnight silk? Ethan once said quietly, "If color is what the world sees, then let them be blind. Because when I look at you, Amara, I see everything I was meant to find." And in that single truth their love proved what time and pride never could. Love needs no permission, no shade, no ending.